When we talk about international migration, we usually focus on people leaving. A nurse leaves the Philippines for Saudi Arabia, an engineer leaves India for Silicon Valley, a doctor leaves Nigeria for the United Kingdom. The conversation always ends there. The government worry about the brain drain, economists discuss about the remittances, and politicians debate about immigration. But what happens when migrants come home? Well, in my opinion, one of the most overlooked yet increasingly important issue in international migration today is the return migration, which is the process of migrants returning their country of origin after living and working abroad. And then as migration becomes more temporary, circular, and transnational, return migration is no longer an exception. And yet, many countries still lack policies to effectively utilize the skills, knowledge, and the resources that returnees bring home. So, traditionally, migration have been viewed through the lens of brain drain, and which is the idea that developing countries lose their most talented workers to wealthier states. And however, recent research suggests a more complex reality, where the many skilled migrants do not remain abroad permanently. Instead, they maintain to connect with their home countries and eventually return with savings, international experience, professional networks, and new knowledge. And this creates an important development opportunity. But the problem here is that many governments continue to treat migration as a one-way movement. They focus heavily on immigration but pay far less attention to reintegration and return. And then as a result, countries often fail to benefit from the very talent they feared losing. And this is why return migration has become a critical issue, which is it sits at the intersection of migration, development, and globalization. So, before I go further, to understand this issue, I use three related concepts. The first one is transnationalism, social capital theory, and then third one is brain drain. So, the first, transnationalism. They argue that the migrants do not completely disconnect from their home countries, but instead they maintain social, economic, and professional ties across borders. Second, social capital theory. It helps us to explain why returnees can become valuable development actors, while migrants return not only with money but also with networks, credibility, and access to international markets. And finally, the brain gain. This perspective challenges the traditional brain drain narrative, which is rather than viewing migration as a permanent loss, it suggests that migration can generate long-term benefits when migrants return with enhanced skills and experiences. And together, these frameworks show that migration should not be understood as a one-way movement of people, but as a circulation of knowledge, resources, and opportunities. While government and international organizations have increasingly recognized the potential benefit of return migration, the World Bank, for example, has promoted initiatives such as Global Skill Partnership, which aim to transfer brain drain into brain gain by creating pathway for skills development and knowledge transfer. Many countries have also introduced diaspora engagement policies, returning entrepreneurship programs, and investment incentives to encourage the migrants to contribute to the national development. And a useful example is India. Well, during 1970s and then 1980s, many highly skilled Indian professionals migrated to countries such as the US and the UK, and it raised some concerns about the brain drain. But however, economic liberalization in the 1990s created new opportunities at home. Some migrants returned and used their international experience, skill, professional networks, entrepreneurial skills to contribute to India's growing technology sector itself. Importantly, return migration alone did not create India's success. Economic reforms, foreign investment, technological growth also played important roles. And however, returnees act as a catalyst by connecting local industries to global opportunities. Well, this case demonstrates how the migration can support development when supported by the appropriate institutions and policies. Despite its potential, return migration is not automatically beneficial. First, many returnees face difficulties reintegrating into domestic labor markets. Foreign qualifications are often not fully recognized, creating barriers to employment. Second, significant wage differences between the developed and developing countries can also discourage migrants from returning permanently. And third, migration governance is often fragmented. Immigration agencies, labor ministries, development agencies, and diaspora office frequently operate independently, and making coordination feels difficult. The fourth one is many countries lack reliable data on return migration. Government often know who leave but have some kind of like limited information about who returns and what skills they possess and how they contribute after returning. And then most importantly, not every return migration becomes a successful entrepreneur or kind of like investor. Some return due to unemployment, visa restriction, family obligations, or any economic hardship. And this means that development benefits cannot be assumed simply because migrants return. And then the real challenge is creating institutions that can effectively support and utilize returnees' skills and experiences. Well, in conclusion, return migration is one of the most overlooked issues in contemporary international migration. And then using the transnationalism, social capital theory, and the brain-drain perspective, we can see that the migrants are not simply leaving or returning. They are a part of the broader process of global secularization that moves knowledge, skills, and even opportunity across borders. But however, the benefits of return migration are not automatic. Without effective reintegration policies, institutional support, and international cooperation, countries can risk wasting like one of their most valuable development resources, which is the people who choose to come home. Rather than asking how to stop migration, policymakers should ask a different question, which is how can migration, including the return migration, be transformed into a tool for development?